Hey there everybody, how's it going? Sorry for the wind noise, a little windy out here today, but and the light's just about to dip behind the cloud over there, so it's going to get a little strange out here, lighting wise. But yeah, facts are thin on the ground these days, and that's a sad thing. D. Rosa made a video a couple of weeks back, which I hadn't seen. I just saw it today, this morning actually, about how the X-T5 and X-H2, how he was having a hard time seeing the resolution. And I'm packing up my X-H2 and sending it back because the 40 megapixels ain't working and whatever, and Fuji's screwed up and all this, you know. And yeah. So a few years back, like 8 years ago, when the D800, when full frame went 36 megapixels, and you know, super high resolution back in the day. And I think it was either the D810 or the D800, D800E, or it might have even been the Pentax K1. But I remember DP Review did this big thing. I think it was the D810. I have to look it up, but it's still up there. I'm sure somebody will find it. Put it in the comments if you find it. They did this big thing like, you know, how come we can't see the resolution from the 36 megapixels with the full frame? You know, and then they went into it to try to find out why they weren't resolving, you know, seeing any big resolution jump. And their conclusions were like, you know, you had to use like the very best lenses at like, you know, only like f5.6, f8, f11. Because if you open the lens up too much, the lens quality would negate the extra resolution. If you stop the lens down too much, the diffraction would negate the extra resolution. I mean, it was, you know, then they said you have to have impeccable technique. I remember that statement. And part of that also meant you had to, they also said they would highly recommend using front curtain, electronic front curtain for the shutter. Don't let the front curtain flip up on its own, because that was enough to cause an induced camera shake and mitigate the extra resolution. So really what it came down to is, unless you had like the perfect technique and we're shooting at, you know, very specific apertures and had the best lenses and, you know, used like front curtain, electronic front curtain to mitigate camera shake, you weren't going to see a difference in the extra resolution. And that was at 36 megapixels when they went 36 megapixel full frame. So, you know, that was back in the day. Well, here we are, and now it's 2023, and Fuji went 40 megapixels, which, by the way, 40 megapixels on APS-C has a pixel density equal to a 90 megapixel full frame. Let that sink in a bit. No wonder people are having issues. And so, yeah, so you're going out there with a 90 megapixel full frame. Your technique better be good, and you better have all your ducks in a row, because you ain't going to see a difference. All right? But let's go back and reiterate what DP Review said about the 36 megapixel, I think it was the D810. They said you have to have impeccable technique, a heavy tripod, the right tripod. You needed front curtain, electronic front curtain, mirror lockup, and an aperture not wide open but not stopped down too far. Like, there are only certain apertures that the very best lenses would give you the, you know, that would help you to, that would allow you to see the resolution increase from 24 to 36 megapixels. We're in the same place now. And the other thing that's really important to get across to people to understand this is that the sweet spot for full frame was around 24 megapixels. After that, it's diminishing returns. Okay, yes, 36 megapixels is sharper than 24, but not by much. And 60 megapixels is sharper than 40 megapixels, but by even less. Okay, so that's full frame. All right, when it comes to APS-C, probably the sweet spot was 16 megapixels. Okay, so 24 was better and people enjoyed it. 26 was pushing it. Okay, now we jump to 40, and that's going to very much, I mean, that's the the equivalent of a 90 megapixel full frame. And when this happens, when the full frames go 90 megapixels, and people are going to say go from their Sony A7R5 to the A7R6 that's 90 megapixels, people are going to be like, I don't really see it. I mean, it's going to be the same thing as we've got right now with the X-H2 and the X-T5. All right, they're going to be like, hey, I can't see it, I can see it, and I demonstrated that in my Christmas tree pictures, but that's not why I shoot the X-H2 and the X-T5. The reason to shoot the X-T5 and the X-H2, the reason to upgrade to those cameras are the bigger batteries. The 235 battery is a huge improvement over those crappy 126 batteries in Fuji land. But now you're not going to benefit at all going from an X-T4, because X-T4 took the 235 battery, okay? But the autofocus, the auto white balance, the auto exposure, auto ISO, aperture priority, shutter priority, program, like the X-T5 and the X-H2 do it in video, no problem. It's Sony level quality, okay? I mean, with the X-T4, I believe, and this is just a wild ass guess on my part, I believe that the X-T4 processor was overburdened with the addition of the IBIS. I think it was too much. And I think the X-T4 processor struggles with IBIS, auto white balance, auto exposure, autofocus. When I use the X-T4 for video, like I'm doing right now with the X-H2, yeah, I had to set everything manually. And not as much with the X-T3, but the X-T3 didn't have IBIS. So but that's just my wild ass guess. Now, the thing that you need to really understand is for stills, hey, the X-T4 was great. No complaints whatsoever. And and the X-T3, same thing. No complaints whatsoever. I always wanted, and you guys, if you've been watching my channel, know this, I've always wanted just a little bit more resolution. Did I really need it? Not really. I mean, I'm selling commercial 30 by 40 landscape prints from X-T3 files. So did I really need it? No, but I kind of wanted it. And that's what I got with the X-T5 and the X-H2. But even if the X-T5 and the X-H2 were still 26 megapixels, I would have upgraded to these cameras, not for the megapixels. It's the battery, the autofocus, the auto white balance. In video, it all works, okay? So, the X-H2 is my video camera, and what's cool about that is I use it just like I use the Sonys. I used the Sonys, and it works great. It does the job. Now, why did I upgrade to the X-T5? Well, to have battery compatibility. So the problem with the X-T3 now is it takes the 126 batteries. So now I have one bag with an X-T5 and an X-H2. The X-H2 is my video camera and my backup for my X-T5 stills camera. My X-T5 is my stills camera and my backup for my X-H2 video camera. And I bring 235 batteries and I'm done. So that's the deal, okay? That's why I upgraded. The 40 megapixels was icing on the cake. It's not the cake. The cake is the battery and the autofocus and the auto exposure and the auto white balance and everything else that was improved. And I forgot to mention this, the faster processor. Like there's no question that the processor generation 5 in the X-T5 and the X-H2 and the X-H2S is streets ahead of the X-T4, X-T3 level, Gen 4 processor. So, yeah. So I just had to make this video. Now, I'm not calling D. Rosa out, but what I am calling out is anybody who is making videos saying that Fuji has a problem with their 40 megapixel sensor, because that's just not true. The problem is that I think these photographers had expectations that were beyond reality, is really what it comes down to. Having had a lot of experience with 36 megapixel, 45 megapixel, and 60 megapixel full frame cameras, like I kind of knew what I was getting into with the 40 megapixel Fuji camera. These ultra high resolution sensors, we are, in APS-C after 16 megapixels, we kind of reach the point of diminishing returns, okay? I mean, it's really where it's at. And definitely beyond 26 megapixels on APS-C. In full frame, it's kind of like 24, maybe 36, but really 24 was the sweet spot. So there it is. Well, the wind's picking up because my camera's blowing over, so it's time to quit. Thanks a lot. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. We'll see you out here when it's not so windy. Have a great one. Bye.